You want to check yours or you good?
I just looked at the same level because I hosted the last episode.
Ready for the next episode.
See? I'm going to put it down once we start.
Yeah.
But
That's how you clap, Wes. Did you get that?
I did.
Are we for sure recording?
Yep.
Fingers crossed.
It's going.
Totally.
for the cold open.
Definitely.
Be a great audio cold open.
For the cold open.
All right, we're ready.
I was already ready.
I'm ready.
I've been up for a while.
I'm buying something for the podcast.
Patreon content. Classic.
Was that mine?
Yeah.
Classic. Also classic.
How's it going?
Hello.
Hi.
We are This Podcast Is Not For You. My name is Jake.
My name is Wes.
My name's Peyton.
And today we have a special episode. We are going to be reviewing a Stonemaier board game release. It is an expansion for the previously reviewed Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig that we did an episode on probably 3-4 months ago now,
Yeah,
maybe.
Sounds about right.
Jamie reached out to us and said, hey, I've got some advanced copies of the expansion going out. Would you guys like to apply to possibly review said expansion? And
here it is.
yeah, we kind of all really enjoyed playing Between Two Castles.
Needless to say, we said yes.
Yeah, we said yes. And as you can see, if you are watching on YouTube, we've got the expansion right here. And if you're listening to this, we've got the expansion right here. And also right there.
Perfect.
So basically what the expansion is, and if I guess I'll just do a real quick recap of the base game if you're just now jumping in. Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig is a pseudo co-op tile drafting game. You and the person to your right and you and the person to your left are co-building castles together, and then at the end of the game, your score is the lowest score out of the two scores that you will have. So it's a really interesting way to kind of balance where you put your focus, because you don't want to score 105 points on one castle and then 42 on the other, because then your score is 42. So it's a really cool pseudo cooperative way to make that actually work, instead of being like, well, I like Pate more than Wes, so I'm going to put all my good tiles in me and Pate's castle. And so,
And if you want to hear a more extensive discussion on the game itself, because that's kind of confusing, just because it's pretty unique sounding. You can listen to that episode.
I believe we had
which is
Natty on that one, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It was just titled Between Two Castles. This is the expansion. So maybe listen to that one before this one if you are trying to get the basics of the game.
Yeah,
and then
that is episode 30. So it was
There you go.
20 episodes ago. Because
20
this
episodes
is
ago.
episode 50.
Oh, hey.
Is it really?
Yeah.
This will be episode 50.
Wow.
Jamie and Stonemaier Games, thank you so much for sharing episode 50 with us. Thank you to the listeners for listening to 50 episodes. And if you've just been skipping around, that's awesome too, because I don't listen to podcasts at all. So that's more than I would have ever listened
Thanks
to.
to you guys for going through all 50 of
Yeah.
these. Over a year, we've been doing it now.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
We could have crapped out a long time ago, but we have.
Most would have, I
Yes,
think.
Lord knows.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, so cool.
I'm still having fun. I
50,
don't know about you
dude.
guys. I'm still having fun.
Yes, it's been 50 weeks that we have been, not total, obviously
Right,
took a
right.
season 1-2 break, but
Yeah.
50 weeks, that means 50 times we've gotten together just to talk about stuff that's
Yeah.
important to us.
And we're just going to keep going. We've got YouTube now, which we're really I'm really enjoying putting together those episodes. And
yeah.
And the goal of the podcast is exactly the opposite of what's happening. We're becoming worse and worse friends.
uh-huh.
That's true.
Um,
yeah, and it's for everyone.
Right.
now.
And we're starting to hate each other more and
Unfortunately.
more.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's fun.
We're pandering to audience,
but still having fun doing it.
Yeah,
definitely.
So,
but seriously though, if you enjoy the podcast, tell somebody about it and spread it and share it. Because
ask for a sticker, we'll send you one for free.
Yep.
Yeah, DM us too if you want.
If you want a mug, we'll send you one for. You can buy one. It's a mug with a sticker on it.
Also, topics. If you have topics you'd like us to talk about or you think are interesting, DM.
Yeah.
So that was cool. It was a little 50 episode celebration that I totally forgot about.
Woo!
We had talked about it before.
I just remembered it.
But Between Two Castles, the Secrets and Soirees expansion, it basically adds a solo mode. The solo mode rules did not exist prior to this expansion. So the expansion includes two solo play modes made by Automa Factory. So they kind of basically take all of Stonemaier Games and rework the rules to work in a one-player fashion. So there are two separate ways you can play, and I played one of them, so I'll briefly talk about that towards the end of the episode. And then it also adds 2 new room tiles and 1 specialty room token. So it's kind of a little... we'll just get into it now. What I loved so much about this expansion... Because generally I hate expansions.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think...
They can often ruin games.
Yeah, and it's like, man, especially if it comes out way soon. It's like, why didn't you just make the game...
Why wasn't this just a part of the original game?
Yeah, and then you have to wonder, well, does it really add anything? Is it something they actually thought of after? Or are they getting feedback and saying, we should do this, And so I generally don't like them. And me and Natty and Jeremy were talking last week, and Jeremy loves this card game called... it's a trick game, so I don't know.
It's a trick game?
Yeah.
Like a trick card, not a magic trick. It's
that's what's so
trick card game. So like Queen or Hearts would be a trick game. You take the trick.
Gotcha.
Like in the base terms of card play.
Yeah.
It's a terminology.
Gotcha.
He loves Skull King. It's a trick card game, and he was just telling me last week, literally, how they're releasing an expansion and it's 1 card. That's the expansion. You're paying for the expansion and it adds 1 card to the game.
Wow.
Yeah. And granted, this 1 card might change a ton, but you're literally paying for... I was like, wouldn't it come in an envelope? Like $15, and it's literally like an envelope, and it's like
a white
thank
mail
you.
envelope.
Yeah, it's so strange.
The only time I feel like a game really warrants expansion is when the replay could be potentially limited. Like I'm thinking of a game called Mysterium that I really like. It's like Clue sort of.
That's the picture.
The 3 stages.
Yeah.
And there's a ghost that is sending messages to the different players that are playing as psychics, and they're trying to figure out these things. And you have these little cards with kind of art on them, like kind of surrealist art. And the expansion added another stage, which was fun. It was like, oh, okay, it extends the game. But really what it did is it added more of the works of art. So the ghost has more options to choose from now, sending out. And I feel like that's one where that's a well-warranted expansion where it's like, okay,
so
we've had all these art pieces a lot. We've all seen them. Here's some new ones to add some more like, okay, this is a new piece of art. I haven't gotten much from it.
Yeah.
So do you think this is warranted?
I will say, another thing it adds, and I forgot to say, is it ups the player count to 8.
Right.
You can play with 8 people now instead of 6. So
to me, just upon one play and hearing the description of this expansion, it seems like the biggest thing it adds is a solo play that might actually work. Yeah. Because I know the first solo play did not.
Well, and also, doesn't the 2-player one also not that great?
Well,
the original 2-player one?
It didn't have a solo play at all.
Oh, so okay. So he's talking about the 2-player. That's right.
Where it was him, Ash, and Ludwig won.
A ghost,
Does that
a ghost player.
Anything? Does this expansion change that 2-player at all?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
No.
Oh, okay. I thought that it
Then
had.
I retract my statement. To me, this feels like...
So I guess it expands to 8, and then also...
1.
What's the opposite of expand?
Disband.
Disbands it.
Retracts it.
Contracts.
Contracts it to one player. You can play by yourself. I suppose there were no rules to play by yourself before.
Yeah.
So I guess you could have, but there are no.
You would have to figure it out yourself. To me, my initial impressions of this expansion, it felt as if there wasn't an expansion. It felt pretty naturally fit into the game. Whether or not it feels necessary, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it didn't, to me, change the feel of the game at all.
Also, replayability is pretty high on that, just because it's almost never going to be exactly the same.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it as... I didn't feel more engaged because there was an expansion. It felt like just a natural, new... okay, there's another thing to kind of keep track of, a different way to score.
Yeah.
It's not... It doesn't stick out as this feels really different.
Yeah.
So necessary, I don't know if it's a term that would apply to this.
Yeah.
To me, it
unless you had
integrated
7 people and they were like, let's play this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I wanted to play by myself.
True.
But it integrated seamlessly, I felt like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest compliment I would say about this expansion, is it just fit right into the game.
You have anything else to add? I would love to piggyback off that.
Go for it.
You want to have something?
No, go for it.
Yeah, I would say that's why I hate expansions. Because it's okay, throw out everything you thought you knew.
Yeah.
And it's just golly, why? And it was literally, this is hey, I think it came with 1 new throne room tile, which doesn't change the game at all. But it comes with a new throne room tile and 2 new room types. Play as you normally would. And I loved that. It was just you didn't have to relearn anything. You just had to, okay, so this one does this one does this, and they play the exact
same mechanics.
I loved that. And I think in terms of the thematics of it, the ballroom special tile is really cool because it encourages more types of caring about what's in your neighboring castles, because you also score for both of them in tier 1. So I thought that was really cool. And
I'll piggyback off that. I think that's the thing that jumped out
We've
to
got
me.
a 3-person piggyback.
So we're picking Wes, load one up, okay? I think basically what it does to me is it adds 2 more strategies to score points. I see the ballroom being a strategy.
Yeah.
I would say the activity rooms really aren't that different. They're just kind of they look cooler, and I think they're very similar to where you score on other tiles.
Yeah.
I think the secret room is the other kind of fresh.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that. I don't think we haven't even talked about
to piggyback
types.
Off of that.
We haven't even talked about the
types
of
it's going to get shorter and shorter. Yeah, so, and to piggyback off that, the secret room basically copies the room next to it, or above it, or below it. So that's something that is brand new to, it just felt like it was a brand new way of thinking about it. And then obviously the ballroom is different too, but I would say scoring points, there's just more ways to score points and more ways to get a higher scoring castle. I think there's more pitfalls there because, you might get secret rooms that you don't want in your hand. You might get activity rooms that you don't want. So there's a higher chance that it may mess up a strategy that you're going for, which is interesting too.
Yeah. The activity room felt like it could be a bad thing too, which didn't really exist before. Because a lot of times you'll place a tile and it won't score, but it won't make that tile worth less. Yeah. So that's what was really cool about the activity rooms is in the activity room, if you're listening, thematically it's a bowling alley or a music room or a chess room, I guess. So it's the chess room, if you put it next to another activity room, which in general are pretty loud rooms, it's worth less. The loud rooms, if you put next to sleeping rooms, they're worth less because who would want to sleep right next to a bowling alley and those kind of things.
And that's the first time that some kind of logical construction has come into the game too, where rooms next to each other in the real world make sense and score less. Yeah. Which
with
is
the
another
exception of
thing.
the outdoor rooms not being able to build on top of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't build them underground. But other than that, I agree.
The actual room, what's the room itself is actually affecting the other rooms, which is interesting.
I thought that was cool. And I probably wouldn't have picked up on it unless I was like, unless we were actually reviewing it. You know, it's like, I don't know if the casual player, and I'm not saying that as like a pretentious thing. It's like, I don't think that deep about them. But since we were reviewing it, I was like, okay, let me do a deeper dive on, you know, so, but that just, and again, before we start talking about good things, I guess we already have been, but not sponsored by Stonemaier. We do not have to say anything positive. We can say whatever we want in these reviews. But I think that goes to show you how the quality control that Stonemaier has. You know, it's like, does this make sense? Is it worth doing this, you know, in terms of expansions and stuff? And so, yeah, I think that, because I agree, that's a really cool thing where it's like, oh, yeah, cool.
I will say, I don't think that any other expansions are necessary for this game. I feel like this would start to get to a like a max capacity of like, okay, there's too many types of tiles now. I can't.
Yeah, you'd have to start throwing out original tiles.
Yeah, I can't keep track of them.
Yeah.
I think thematically and like how it actually would work, it could work with more. Like you could add more onto the card, onto your master card of how to score, because really what you're adding is one more layer or two more layers. I mean, you could go farther, but the tile number is what you're going to run into being a problem.
Yeah.
Like you could come up with more ways to score points like you have. That would be cool. I think the tile number, like you said, would be the problem.
Yeah.
And even in the rule book, it says, hey, we know that the game trays literally will fit all of them but 4. Like, they're like, sorry. It's like, that sucks. Because so even they're almost like, they literally are at more than capacity in terms of like what the box will hold, which let's get to the tactile part of it.
Yeah.
So I love it. You can see, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the box, comes in the box. Really cool. You open it up, the production, because I think it's $30. And in terms of expansions, you obviously want to get what you pay for. And so a lot of games are $30.
And that's pretty expensive for an expansion.
Yes. Yeah. So I was like, okay. But you open it up. I think it comes with 24 new room tiles total, you know, not types, but 24 total room tiles, another castle token, new set of rules. So it's essentially a new game. And then the thing that I hate about it, though, if you're watching, and if you're listening, I'm opening the box.
He's attempting to open it. There we go.
As you can see, or hear, there's nothing in here. So the thing I hated the most is, I guess, I don't know, it sounds cool when you say it, but I hate it. It all fits. They made a new game trays that fits with the original in the original box. So once you open this and put everything in the original game, you don't need this anymore.
Oh. I didn't know where you were going with that for a second.
Yeah, it's just really frustrating because now, I don't know, you have one game on your shelf where it's kind of like, well, I paid for another one, and now the expansion, it's like a no turning back. Once you incorporate it, unless you want to go through and remove all the other tiles, it's like, this is
useless.
Yeah. And so the only reason I haven't thrown it away literally is for the video. So
yeah,
it's just like, dang, that kind of sucks, because it's like, you know, especially if you're collecting and you want your collection to grow, it's like, I bought something else, but
though I will say a lot of expansions do that. A lot of expansions just blend into the original game, and
well, most of the time those are like card-based games.
True.
A lot of the time, so you can just shuffle them into a deck, and then like a card box is a lot different than like that kind of box.
That's true. Yeah.
I'd say the other tactile thing that I wasn't crazy about is it's already a game that you struggle for space. I think on any table, like even a big table, it's like you kind of got to move everything at least a couple times.
Yeah.
And you've got another tray now. Yeah. So I think that's
we surprisingly
another
didn't
downside.
have a problem this time with that. We were playing on a smaller, maybe it's because there was just 3 of us, but I feel like our castles weren't like, I know they're the same size as they always are, but maybe we're just building in a certain way this time where it didn't impact the space, but to your point, Jake, I feel like a lot of expansions for games that I have played are card-based expansions where you get a new set of cards to incorporate into the game.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the easiest thing to incorporate into an already existing game.
Yeah.
Shuffle them in and you're done.
I'm having a hard time thinking off the top of my head of board games like with physical components, not cards, that has expansions to it.
The big one that comes to mind for me is one that we spent a lot of time on this year, was the Harry Potter
That's
Hogwarts
true.
battle.
Yeah.
It's some cards, some not, some
but they are housed in their own boxes. You literally couldn't put them in the original box. It's full.
Yeah. I guess I just like.
I think they went overboard on packaging on that. Probably.
That's insane. Yeah. I think the thing that I push back against in terms of like expansions, it's like for the first time I play a game, I don't want to play with an expansion. There's just something about it. It's like, let me just play the game.
The base
unadulterated.
game.
Yeah, and so the idea of not being able to go back is just daunting to me and scary, I guess. It seems stupid, but...
Especially if you've got somebody that hasn't played it before.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Why throw more than...
Though I feel like with this expansion specifically, that wouldn't be as big of an issue.
Right.
Because those tiles are just
They play the exact same.
They play the same way.
You would never know.
Yeah. They're not... Like the info cards are just the exact same, but just have those two elements added on.
Yeah.
Like, so with this one, I don't see a problem with like a first timer coming to the game and being like confused. Mm-hmm. Whereas with Harry Potter, that game is elaborate to begin with,
Very
and
extensive.
then adding other things on top of it.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't even played the expansions. I've played the base game a number of times. I came in and saw the expansion with everything. And I was like, oh my God.
It's pretty wild.
I was intimidated, and I've already played the base game.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like it integrated very well to the point where it wouldn't bother me that the box is nice, and so it feels like a waste of resources.
I know.
Like the art on it's pretty, so just to have an empty box now is kind of like, but if it works for the game, it works for the game.
Yeah, you're right.
That element is somewhat superficial. Not that it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
But it's more just like an annoyance or like, it wasn't crazy that I just have a useless box now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, unless we have anything else, I would love to talk about the Introvert Mode that I played just real quick.
Introvert Mode.
That's what it's called, because there's two solo versions.
Oh, okay.
One of the solo versions is you play with two other castles that you're helping build based on, this set of rules. But the other one is and you're just building your castle, and then the Automa person, I think it's called Roberto or something, is sort of building a castle, but not really. They're just like picking from this lineup of tiles that you draw. It was insane. I had to watch a video.
In a good way or a bad way?
Bad way. I had to watch a video to figure out how it works, and I can try to explain it. I'll keep it very brief. Basically, you build your castle the exact same. The only tiles you play with are 8 stacks of 5 tiles. So you take 8 stacks. They all have 5 tiles in them. Okay. That's it. And then you draw a card that prioritizes the tiles based on what Roberto wants. And so you place a castle token on the tile that you want. So it's like a different game entirely. You place a castle token. You take one of the stacks of 5, lay them out.
Face up.
Yes, okay. Lay them out face up in a column. Mm-hmm. Right?
Or line.
Row.
It's a row, yeah.
A row across.
Yeah.
And so you take a castle token and you put it on the one that you would like to place in your castle. You flip over a card from the Automa deck, and it prioritizes which type it wants and which one in the row it wants. And then you count. It's like 6 across. There's only 5, so you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It takes this one, and then if the one that you put your castle on is still there, you have to take it and put it in your castle. And then there's 3 tiles left. You do it again, flip over another card, which is all fine and dandy, but then eventually, if Roberto... So he just stacks same type of tiles
vertically.
And so he scores based on however many of the same type he has. He's not building a castle. He's just kind of drawing and placing them in the same row or column or whatever.
He's building a castle like Bob the Builder, like a simplistic version.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I'm putting utility rooms in this column. I'm putting sleeping rooms in this column.
Legos.
Yeah, but the weird thing is, if he has two or more of any room type, he prioritizes that kind because he gets more points when he has 5 of the same type. So in your row of 5 that you're drawing from, if there's any of those types that he has 2 or more of, but not more than 4, so if he has 2, 3, or 4 of any room types, he prioritizes those. And so when you start counting at any of those types of rooms and or the one you put the castle on. So it's like he wants to take yours because he's like, and then he wants to take the ones that get him to 5 quickest. So it's like, it's so strange. And so it's like, okay, so let me see how many have 2, these. How many have 5? Okay, I'll have to take these off. And then my castle's already 1, so he doesn't count for that. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3. 4. Yeah, it's just like, it's so strange. So it was fun, but I could not believe how convoluted the rules seemed when you're reading them. I had to watch a video to figure it out. So I would be interested in playing the other style, but in terms of a one-player experience, I've played the one-player version of Red Rising, a Stonemaier game as well, and they're fun. But the thing I love most about board games is the communal aspect. So it's, it's just not
at the
there.
end, are you like,
yay?
Do
you feel like you're playing more? You're playing his hand more than you're playing your own. Like you're doing more setup so that you can play by yourself during the game.
Sort of, yeah.
Because that's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
is that you're concentrated more on his than yours.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh yeah, which one did I want? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Is Red Rising like that too?
No.
Okay.
No, Red Rising is similar. You have a deck that you draw from that predicates what they do, but it didn't have any of the weird.
There's a Wingspan also has a single player, correct?
Yeah.
Also Stonemaier game.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Anyway.
It's so interesting that single player modes are like a necessary element of a game right now.
Yeah.
Because I would just never think to play a board game by myself.
I know, same. But if it wasn't for this, I probably wouldn't have. I was just trying to get a more accurate, encompassing review of all the components that the expansion did. So
sure.
Anyway, that's it for me, unless you guys have anything else to...
No, I would say if you like Between Two Castles, you would be fine to not get the expansion, I think. I don't think you're missing out on anything crazy. Mm-hmm. But this integrates seamlessly into it, and it's just more of...
Yeah. If this game is your jam, you will probably love it.
Yeah.
I would say for the price point, it's probably not worth $30. I would say it's probably more in the realm of $20.
Let me double check.
If that is the price point. I think...
Walmart has it for $20.
Okay.
It's probably $30 on Stonemaier's website.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
20 is pretty
If you can get it for $20, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth $20. But I think for $30 you could get another board game, and I think that'd probably have a little more value. Not that this isn't good and doesn't add to the game, but in terms of dollar value, I think
it's $20 on Stonemaier too. Maybe I'm thinking that the original game was $30.
That could be.
So it is a $20 price point. So
$20 is much more reasonable.
Yeah, especially if you've ever been in a situation where you're like, oh, we have too many people to play it. I think. Yeah, absolutely. For $20.
Yeah, if it gives you enough cards to play with 8 people instead of 6, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was it. That was an issue at the Cardboard Cafe, wasn't it? I think someone had to team up.
Mm-hmm.
It was Peyton, Holly, you, Steph, Alex, Becca, and someone else.
Silas
Maybe
was there.
Yeah. So anyway, I think it was a lot of fun, and I think the ballroom tile is the coolest element of it. Is the another way to score on your castle with the other castles that you've been building the whole time.
Yeah.
I think that's the coolest element of it.
And I think that's where it's got even more room for expansion. Is that concept could really be dug even farther.
Because then you get even more invested in your
To me, that's what Between Two Castles is all about.
Yeah.
Is the teammate aspect of it.
Yeah.
The communal working together.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you get scored, and it is expanded here.
I'm good.
That is it from This Podcast Is Not For You. This wraps up our 50th episode, our half a century mark.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
We'll have to do something crazy for 100 episodes.
Yeah, baby. Live recording.
From Denny's.
Yes, this has been This Podcast Is Not For You. My name is Jake.
I am Wes.
I am Mad King Ludwig.
Ludwig.
Sorry, I mispronounced my own
He
name.
didn't write his name down.
I didn't write my name down like Quiggles did last time.
Yeah, you need to write it down next time. Ludwig.
Bye.